Welcome to the next section where we're going to be talking about the query parameters in the GET request, how to use them, how to access them here in the controller, and how to send them from the browser. So let's get to the browser. As you can see, the query parameters are in the URL, or the request parameters, or how do you want to call them, but in the query they can be, so there could be parameters in the headers, there could be parameters like in the body, or there could be parameters in the query, and those are usually known as query parameters in the request. So they're usually in the URL, and they're usually starting with a question. They are starting with a question mark, and then you can specify your first query parameter. In this case, let's say I'm just going to specify a name, and then you can specify the value with the equals. So you can specify the value, which is going to be, let's say, test, and test name, let's say it like that, and then you can add the ampersand or the and you can specify your second query parameter. So it can be, let's say, last name, or let's just have it last name is going to be equal to test last name. And this is how you would send them. So if you click enter, these are going to get sent to the to this mapping right here. But let's go ahead and read them in our controller and in our request mapping. Now, in order to read them here, what you have to do is you have to receive them. And there's an annotation for query parameters. It's called request param. Request param, you specify the name here. Now, in this case, the first one is name. And then the type, this is going to be a string name. And the second one is going to be very similar to this, just a different name. So I'm just going to copy it. I'm going to paste it. The second one is last name. And I'm just going to rename the variable here to, not the variable, but the argument to last name here. Basically the arg in the method. We have the name, we have the last name, and now this is how we would receive them here in the controller. Basically, this name here, so this name has to be the same as this here. And also for the other one, the last name, so that is the name of the variable, or the name of the param, the name of the query param that we're going to be sending. And now let's return them. So let's create a little formatted string here where we're gonna have name, two dots, name, colon, and let's just add a %s, that's for a string, and then just have, let's say, last name, colon, %s, and now we can use the dot formatted to append the values, name and last name right over there. So what's going to happen, we're going to send the name and the last name as query request parameters. We're going to read them like this with the request param annotation. That's what basically is going to extract it from the URL, and it's going to put it in this variable here. And then we're going to return it back to the user formatted like this string. So let me restart the application and let's test this out. So we should get a different response right now where we're going to get back our name and our last name returned to the browser. So the application is restarted. I'm going to go to the browser and I'm just going to click enter. And there we go. Basically what's happening is we're getting the name and the last name back. And if I were to change the values here, let's say test name 2, test last name 2, I click enter, we're getting them back. So basically what's happening, they're getting right here in this handler, and they're getting read with the request param annotation, and we're just sending them back to the user. So that's going to be it for this section.